Colleagues, good afternoon. My name is Vadim Pokatila. I'm head of the transport practice, McKinsey, Russia, CIS, Middle East, Turkey. Today we'll talk about hub for millions, transport infrastructure for megastar cities. Today we have panelists from Moscow, Mr. Zagrudinov, head of the Department of Construction, City of Moscow, Gamit Bulatov, first deputy head of the Department for Transport and Development of Road and Transport Infrastructure, City of Moscow, Alexander Gornostayev, deputy chairman of the board, Mos-Inch Project, Heather Thompson, CEO, Institute for Transportation and Development Policy. She's joined us online. Michael Riplogel, former Deputy Commissioner for Policy, Department of Transport, New York, and Yves Kreinkamp, CEO of Berliner Verkehrsbetriebe, Berlin, Germany. Today we will discuss how the transport infrastructure is affecting the success of cities, Moscow being one of superstar cities with a huge development potential, has over the last 10 years made a huge breakthrough based also on our study which we conducted in 2018, and we did it again this year. The way we view the transport infrastructure and transport network of the cities, we look at the passenger flows, we use geodata, we use survey data, behavioral survey. So we conducted surveys in several countries. This year we discovered that in spite of the pandemic, Moscow made a strong breakthrough in many areas. Connectivity, financial accessibility, ease of use, efficiency, environmental, sustainability, and other aspects. One of the key criteria, the efficiency of city transit. Moscow actually tops the list. For example, if we had done it 10 years ago, Moscow would have been in spot 20 out of 24, so a huge breakthrough. Moscow is actually far ahead of many other cities in terms of the city transit efficiency. Singapore, number 2, is falling behind 15 percentage points. What does it encapsulate, the efficiency? The speed, cleanness of the metro, the coverage, waiting time. So these are the criteria which are taken into consideration. Now I would like to touch on 2 topics: what has been done, understanding then the synchronous work of Department of Construction, Department of Infrastructure Development. What are the plans going forward, and what can we learn from other cities' experiences? Rafik, I would like to give the floor to you to begin with. If you could help us, how did you manage to stage this breakthrough over the last 10 years, and what's in store for us in the future?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. As a matter of fact, today it is the 10th Urban Forum, and at the plenary session, Sergei Semyonovich Sobyanin, Moscow mayor, took a stock of what has been done. I wanted to start with when 10 years ago we were embarking on this road, faced with these challenges. Moscow was suffering from traffic jams, and when we put people at the center of our work and the ease of use of the transport system, this prompted the development of our transit development program. The key points of the program, the key priorities were decongestion, development of the transit infrastructure, transport infrastructure, integrated approach to development, creation of livable environment, and developing increasing the tourism potential, and policentrism, We wanted to create jobs. Based on this urban development strategy, we focused on the transport development vector, transport development strategy for 2010-2020. The first goal was to make transport more accessible, speed and convenience of the transit system as a key element of the transportation network. Second goal, more roads, more a wider network. If we look at the key cities of the world, then the ratio length of roads per 1,000 vehicles, we used to be on place 15, 16. If you look at the road and street network, we were falling behind. We decided to tackle it in an integrated way. We had the transport modeling exercise, then we adopted a 10-year road improvement program, and of course priority was given to pedestrians, setting up pedestrian links in conjunction with the public transit network. We wanted to make it an element of increasing mobility of people. New transport network, that was the focus. We wanted to develop public transit system, public transit network. The key areas, as I said, 60–70% of funds were earmarked for the development of transport infrastructure, construction of new streets, roads, development and expansion of the metro network, the construction of the LCL and MCC lines, as well as expanding new routes. When we were designing streets, the mayor tasked us with designing the nearby areas and improving the nearby areas. We believe that we have achieved good results. The key results are as follows. As we said, Moscow staged a breakthrough in improving the mobility. A city has become a city for walking. Moscow is an open and safe city. So as of now, we can state that more than 450 streets, squares, embankments, public spaces have been beautified. We've built more than 250 passenger overpasses, underpasses, 895 kilometers of bike lanes. So as a result, a threefold increase in the number of Muscovites taking walks, taking strolls in the streets. It's open statistics. We also have the longest pedestrianized area in Europe. We also had a breakthrough in the road construction and street construction. Over the last 10 years, we've built over 1,000 kilometers worth of roads. The mayor has now set the target of developing another 10-year program. Today we've completed the upgrade of 18 intersections at the Moscow Ring Road, and we have 4 intersections in the works. These are global intersections, major engineering projects. We've built 307 artificial structures, tunnels, overpasses, flybys, etc., improving the throughput of our road system. As part of the development of link roads, we completed the northwestern link road. Now we're working on the northeastern link road and the southern road. It has increased the throughput by 18%. Now Moscow is one of the top 3 megacities globally in terms of increase of road network. So we've been consistently delivering on the tasks we set ourselves. On the metro development, we have a major program. At the plenary session, a lot was said about the metro. So
In this area, we've registered a huge increase in the growth of the Moscow metro has grown by 50%. I think it's the most beautiful metro worldwide. We've built 123 kilometers worth of new lines, 53 new stations. Construction work is underway, and we are also building a big circle line, 73 kilometers long, 31 stations. We expect to complete the work next year. So 34 areas, districts of the city now have access to metro, and our goal is to make sure that 94% of Muscovites can live nearby metro stations, and we are on the right track. Another major area for us was the construction. We have the Moscow Central Circle is a major line. Today, Moscow Central Line is carrying 550,000 people a day. Since the opening of the Central Line, we have transported over 500 million passengers. So on-the-ground metro is very popular. All MCC stations have transfer points to the metro and to the Moscow Central diameter. Following this project, 32 districts registered improved accessibility. The Circle Line was overburdened. This burden has decreased. The Metro Central Line, the burden on it has decreased 15%. Also, Moscow Central diameters, a new ground metro, a new project which allows us to improve mobility. It's very much in demand. It would give us 180 new stations with 270 kilometers of lines. 2 lines have been finished. We are now working on 3 additional lines. This project will decongest the transport infrastructure by 12%, will reduce, and 130 million people have used this Moscow Central Line since its opening. It's very much in demand, and people like this service. Now it's easier to commute for citizens of 43 districts and multiple cities of the Moscow region. Working in all these areas, integrated construction of road and street network, MCC, LCL, MCD. Now we have 40 connection hubs in operation. So you can have 35 transfers on the radial line, 24 on the MCC, 46 transfers altogether. Why are they important? Because transfer hubs, according to our estimates, the current passenger flow is 3.3 million people. Going forward, after the construction in 2022-24, the passenger flow will increase to 7.4 million, so 127% growth. Now, very briefly, I would like to speak about our plans. As part of our plans, as part of the creation of comfortable areas of residence, we have numerous projects which will improve the convenience and comfort. Moscow Renovation Standard, My Street, and other projects are aimed at improving mobility and comfort for Moscow residents. We are implementing housing renovation program. We're renovating huge areas, integrated redevelopment projects, brownfield development projects, developing the Moscow River embankments. Moscow is a huge agglomeration. Of course, we're focusing on the development of transport infrastructure because unless we expedite the development of the transport infrastructure, all other projects will be falling behind. So we have plans for the next 5 years, as I said, for the construction of the road street network. We have a 10-year plan for the road infrastructure development. The priority is railway, pedestrianized areas, and the use of intellectual transport systems. Our colleagues will embark on that. Without an integrated management, without applying new approaches, we will not be able to achieve efficiency of operations. In the new facilities, yes, we know that Moscow has made a breakthrough, and our study shows, comparison of Moscow city development and other cities. And Moscow is among the leaders. Only Chinese cities can lay claim on the Moscow development and growth rates. But construction is not everything. There are many countries, well-developed countries in the world, when the active development infrastructure did not lead to results. And Seoul, for example, they built roads first and they had to destroy them. In Los Angeles, the construction of metro did not lead to effects originally expected. I would like to ask Gamit Bashirovich, what's the secret? How did you manage all these constructions, the concrete and everything? How did you manage to turn it into a living thing? How did you manage to change the image of the city? And following your own way and avoiding mistakes of others.
Thank you very much, and hello, dear colleagues. I'm happy to greet you all. First of all, I would like to comment on the presentation of my colleague. Rafik raised the questions that are related not only to construction, but infrastructure of passengers too. So the Department of Transportation and Construction work on various topics, and our presentations, I believe, will be a little bit similar. It's very hard to say something new after such a detailed presentation of my colleague. So in my speech, I will try to focus on the following questions. Maybe I will have a little bit different angle of view on tariffs and pedestrians and infrastructure, on the content of the infrastructure, how to attract the users of infrastructure, how to make sure that the services of passenger transportation have an absolutely new level, and what helps us achieve our goals. Right, so at the beginning, I would like to share the screen with you. This is my presentation. Here you can see some figures. 182 stations we had. Now we have more than 200 of them. I remember in 2010, we came together with the directors of different departments. We checked our plans, we checked what was done in the past, and the task seemed very ambitious, almost impossible to us. Now we know that since 2010, 90 stations of subway were commissioned. And when I say 90 stations, I mean the subway stations and the stations of Moscow Central Circus. But we also now put into operation Moscow Central Diameter and Large Circle Line. If you take it all together, the figures are really impressive, and I would like to also express my gratitude to constructors, builders, and all the companies doing it. Because it's not only about construction, basically. It's about teamwork of the members of the government and various construction departments and construction companies. But in addition to construction, there are other practical issues we have to focus on to make sure that you fill the infrastructure with necessary content. And this is what I want to focus on. Accessibility increased. More than 90% of people who live close to subway stations use a subway, and that was the figure we set for ourselves. But in addition to physical accessibility, there are other types of accessibility which make people choose public transportation more often. And that, of course, helps us achieve the goals we set for ourselves to attract more people to public transportation. Let me share some things with you. So, we do have data which characterize the situation in 2010. That was the beginning of our large-scale work. We had 16 subway and transfers. Here you can see places where passengers did not feel comfortable. So we wanted to get rid of over conjuncted transfers, and the number of such transfers increased. But thanks to the transportation development program, we have a totally different picture. Now we have 8 transfers, and have a look here. The notion of density per square meter changed. It was 6.4, now it is 5.2. It's closer to minimum. We decreased by 25% the most dense railroad track at Taganskaya line. So what you see here is a totally different picture. The activities allowed us to make the conditions more comfortable for people. By 2025, we plan to get 0 railroad tracks with conjunction. Because we introduce new lines, we introduce Moscow Central diameter 1, 2, and 3. So we want to get rid of such over-congested railroad tracks to make sure that passengers can travel in a comfortable way without any obstacles. There are some blocks which have the biggest impact on the growth of passenger flow, on the attractiveness of public transportation. These blocks help us utilize the infrastructure in the best way. Rafik already spoke about it, and it's all about hubs. We have built several of them, but we need to focus on hubs more. This is how passengers can change the means of transportation inside of the railroad and road network. When we introduced Moscow Central diameter and Moscow Central circle, we tried to make it coherent, to create a single system of transportation. And after 1, 2, or 3 months of hubs, the flow of passengers grew by 30% minimum and up to 3 times. Hubs have influence on the growth of passenger flow. And I would like to repeat that together with our colleagues, we try to do our best to integrate Moscow Central Circle with the subway. All the radial lines have transfers to the Moscow Central Circle in such a way that you don't have to go out. There are thousands of people traveling in subway and using the network, even more than 500,000 people on some days, where there are football matches, for example. The infrastructure is efficiently working, and I believe that we will develop it in the future. Tariffs are also important. The mayor of Moscow, Sergei Sobyanin, took decision that the transfer from subway to Moscow Central Circle and Moscow Central Diameter free of charge, thanks to such tariff decisions and attractiveness of such decisions, the number of passengers increased several times. We started Moscow Central Diameter, and the first month demonstrated that the flow increased by 20%. It was convenient, it was free of charge, and transfers were made in comfortable way. The third point that we are working on is the following. We are trying to develop the standards of services. Of course, it includes several aspects. The quality of infrastructure, housekeeping, the quality of services for passengers. We try to do our best to improve the services. But one big issue here is the train itself, or the rolling stock. The rolling stock should develop. Our trains are one of the best in the world, and the rolling stock of our subway is now renewed. The rolling stock of Moscow Central Diameter is also renewed, and I'm not even talking about the buses and other means of transportation traveling on the roads. They are almost all new. We see that suppliers can produce new rolling stock. Till 2010, the rolling stock didn't change, and it was not renewed. But since 2010, the situation has changed, and clients ask us to renew the rolling stock and equipment as fast as possible to make sure that the rolling stock complies with the requirements of people today. We try to use new rolling stock, and people using new rolling stock are, so to say, in different environment. They feel completely different, and they see that the atmosphere around them is different. So rolling stock and renewal of rolling stock is also important. My colleagues already said that it's important to develop smart systems and mobile applications, allowing the passengers to know better what tariff can be chosen, what hub can be chosen, and how to navigate in the big railroad and road system of the city. These are our challenges. We are trying to tackle the issues. We see that there are positive assessments, and we do receive the international awards, that's true, but we do not stop on that. That is the trend, and we will continue to promote public transportation in the future. That is the task set for us. Thank you very much for your detailed and in-depth presentation. Now it becomes clear thanks to what factors the infrastructure is demanded by passengers. Now we see that the story is not only about planning and construction, it's about cooperation of two departments, and only thanks to cooperation we can reach such impressive results. Now I would like to hand over to Heather Thompson, the Director General of the Institute of Transportation Development Policy. What can you say about Moscow? Do you think that the approaches taken in Moscow comply with the international standards? And what can you say about the development of the infrastructure in general? I would like to give you like 3 minutes because we are limited in time and we have quite an intensive session. Thank you.
Hi there. Good to be with you. I wish I was there in person in Moscow, but I am calling in from California. It's been really wonderful to hear the impressive presentations. I was planning a presentation, so I'll try and go through it very, very quickly since it sounds like we're limited on time, if that's okay. So just to tell you a little bit more about myself. So again, my name is Heather Thompson. I'm the CEO of the Institute for Transportation and Development Policy. We are a nonprofit organization headquartered in New York City, but with offices and teams around the world, helping cities to be more sustainable by helping them plan their transportation. I know the topic of the presentation today was what is a superstar city and what does the transportation infrastructure of a superstar city look like? And most of the times when we think about that, we think about smart cities with lots of technology from the future and flying cars and self-driving cars. But really, when I think about a superstar city, what makes a superstar city? It's when cities focus on sustainability, making sure that their transportation is developed in ways that minimize the impact on climate change and air pollution, and also making sure that transportation systems really meet the needs of all people, including low-income communities, women, and children. And so that really, as I've been so happy to hear about already today, it really means putting people at the center. And so it's about focusing on public transportation, walking and cycling, about the connectivity of these modes of transportation, but also thinking about land use, making sure that land use is developed in ways that is dense and compact, and also with mixed use. So we're combining both commercial and residential areas. And we're also thinking about ways to shift people out of their cars onto public transportation and walking and cycling. ITDP, along with other international organizations, including the World Bank and the Asian Development Bank and World Resources Institute and others, give away an annual award called the Sustainable Transportation Award. This is done by an international jury of those organizations. We've been doing this since 2005. And very excited, for those of you that don't know, Moscow actually was the winner of the honorable mention in 2016 and 2018 for so much of the tremendous work that you've been talking about already, really putting people, sustainability, and equitability at the center of the design of your transportation systems. In particular, Moscow was recognized for their work on bike share. At the time, 1 million bike share rides had been achieved with 300 new stations, 4,500 new bikes, and 200 kilometers of protected lanes. And I know since then you've been doing a lot of investment in your transportation systems, including with the metro and with the bus systems. This award was also given earlier on to the city of Paris in France in 2008. At that time, it was the first introduction of bike share with the Velib bike share system. A lot of protected cycle lanes were built in the city, along with parking management and bus rapid transit. In 2009, the city of New York won the award for reclaiming a lot of space, 49 acres away from transport into public space with protected lanes, pedestrian areas, and plazas. In 2011, Guangzhou, China won the award for a new innovative bus rapid transit system that combined trunk and feeder routes that carried up to 1 million passengers per day, along with integrating that with bike share and bike lanes. In 2012, the city of San Francisco in the US won for intelligent parking systems, reclaiming more parking space for people and public space and cycle and walkways. And then just this last year, in 2021, Jakarta in Indonesia won for an integrated system that combines their bus and metro with a new smart fare system called Jacklingo, and also connecting it with walking and cycling, which really increased the ridership on the city transportation systems. And I share all of this to show you that it's really about putting people, equitability, sustainability at the center of the design, and that there's been a lot of evolution since then. As we look into the future, the pandemic has really caused us to focus on resilience. How do we make sure that cities can bounce back from various adverse issues, whether it's the pandemic or growing climate change? And there's this new idea of putting resilience at the center with the development of the 15-minute neighborhood. The city of Paris, who's gotten the Sustainable Transportation Award in the past, has really made this a focus of their new policy. So rather than just thinking about congestion and traffic, it's really thinking about how transportation and land use come together to make it so that people can reach all the destinations they need within a 15-minute walk or cycle ride. And so that's thinking about local destinations, not just where you're going, but bringing destinations to people, making sure that as you develop, you're using a fine street brain so that people don't have to walk too far to their destinations, and that all of that is being grounded in walking and cycling and connected by transit, again, in a short walk or a bicycle ride. And so rather than, again, thinking about taking people to their destinations, it's about bringing destinations to people so that we're less reliant on complicated transportation systems. So with that, I just encourage the city of Moscow, as you continue to think about the future and think about hubs, you really put people at the center, thinking about bringing destinations, bringing that 15-minute neighborhood to people. Cities are a living, breathing thing, just like people, and superstar cities will really be cities that put people at the center as they evolve into the future. The heart and souls of cities rest on people, and cities will thrive if people are thriving. We must design that with that in mind. Thank you so much.
Heather, thank you so much. I think the principle of putting human at the center of the urban development policy is close to everybody's heart. That's the principle Moscow is planning to live by. It would be interesting to hear to your fellow countryman, Michael Ripflogel. For a long time, Moscow was using New York as a role model. I think there are some areas where New York can now look at Moscow for inspiration. How did those principles, were they reflected in your activities, Vision Zero, parking changes? How can we put these principles into practice?
Michael?
Michael, can you hear us?
Okay. Yes. There we are. Yes, so I think very impressed by Moscow's accomplishments and achievements, especially in expanding the metro system, developing more integrated hubs, and connecting and beginning to develop a much more robust system for walking and cycling. New York City, I think, and Moscow share many things in common. We are a city of over 8 million people in a metropolitan area of about 25 million with a very dense center. And we have the largest subway network in the Western Hemisphere with extensive commuter rail and highway connections. My agency, which I've just stepped down from, the New York City Department of Transportation, runs the streets and the sidewalks and the bike paths. The public transportation is actually operated by the Metropolitan Transportation Authority, the Port Authority of New York, New Jersey, which are controlled more at the state level, but we collaborate quite a lot. My agency administers and operates 9,000 kilometers of streets, the sidewalks, almost 800 bridges, 300,000 street lights, vast network of markings, over 2,000 kilometers of bike lanes, ferry services, and all the traffic signals, which are smart interconnected traffic signals, increasingly operated for pedestrian safety with advanced, giving pedestrians and cyclists a head start to cross the street when the traffic lights turn green for the traffic, which we find has alone cut crashes and incidents at intersections by about a quarter. We stopped building new roads and expanding our roads more than 20 years ago because we recognized that we could not build our way out of traffic congestion, and that so instead we're focusing on how to better reallocate street space for walking, cycling, and public transport and public space. And we're developing more effective traffic operations, things like bus rapid transit, which we've done, for example, on 14th Street, as you see in this slide, which is dedicated for buses and trucks to operate in the heart of Manhattan. We're also working with our partner agencies to implement congestion pricing in the Central Business District. We expect this to go live within the next year or two, which should raise over $1 billion a year for public transportation, as well as cutting traffic congestion. And like in London or Stockholm, car drivers will have to pay to enter, and trucks also will have to pay to enter the central area. Our strategic goals are designed to make our transportation system safer, greener, smarter, and more equitable, while accommodating the city's growth economically and population growth within the existing roadway capacity. We've set explicit goals to reduce our greenhouse gases to 0 by 2050, and also to electrify our transportation system, and to shift from about 67% of all trips today made by walking, cycling, and public transport. We want to increase that to 80% by 2050 as part of our Sustainable Transport Initiative. Vision Zero has been at the heart of our transportation program and goals, and we've accomplished that vast improvements in traffic safety by better enforcement by police and cameras, by reducing the speed limit citywide to 25 miles an hour, 40 kilometers an hour, by redesigning our streets and our intersections, and doing extensive safety education and outreach. The result has been that we've cut pedestrian deaths by more than a third over the past half dozen years, and since 2012, 7 of the 8 years have been the safest on record. The city has spent or committed over $5 billion to make the city streets safer in our capital programming process. We're constructing our busways and our cycleways at a rapid pace, about 50 kilometers a year for each of these. We today have about 220 kilometers of busways and about the same amount of fully protected bike lanes. And we have master plans that we're developing to expand these dramatically in the next several years. Our bike share system is the largest outside of China. We today have about 21,000 bikes with 42,000 docking places across the city. We expect the number of bikes to grow to 40,000 over the next 2 years, and this will help us boost the share of trips made by bicycle to 10% by 2050. An increasing number of these bike trips are also made by low-speed electric pedal assist bikes, which we see as an important means of increasing the appeal of cycling for many more people, and to increase the share of trips and the distance of trips made by bicycle. New York City is spending about $1.5 billion a year to bring our 800 bridges and tunnels to a state of good repair. We're updating bridges to accommodate bicycling and other sustainable modes of transport. For example, on the Brooklyn Bridge, which you see here on this slide, we just recently announced plans to take away some of the moving traffic lanes to install bi-directional protected bike lanes, which will be going in fairly soon. We use, on traffic operations and management, this is, of course, very important since we're not expanding our roads. We need to operate them more effectively. We're using cameras for enforcement of bus lanes, of speed limits, for red lights. We're using bus priority for traffic signals so buses can hold a green light longer to get through the intersection and can get an early advance on a red light. We're introducing new mobile parking payments and transitioning over the next couple of years to license plate-based parking enforcement and administration. And we have converted, with the COVID crisis, over 10,000 parking spaces into cafe spaces on our streets as part of our Open Streets program. And this has helped to bring life back to the city even during the heart of the pandemic and given great, wonderful new character to the city. So we're in an era of big challenges. Moscow, New York, and all of the other superstar cities face these challenges. First and foremost, I think, is climate change, and we will not accomplish the goals that we need to reach zero emissions on climate change without also addressing equity and advancing other social goals, without advancing vehicle electrification, without managing the pace of technological innovation, and moving people to more sustainable modes of transportation, and dealing with the increasing automation of transportation over time. We need to manage big data more effectively, and we need to make our whole transportation system safer. So I think New York looks forward to working with Moscow and other superstar cities to help learn together how we can address these big challenges. So I appreciate the invitation to be here today. Thank you.
Спасибо большое. Очень информативно. Thank you. Very informative. I think all of us have something to think about because New York, unlike Moscow, has been investing into the transport infrastructure for a long time, over the last 100 years. So what have you done over 100 years? We had to do it over the last 10 years, and we had a heroic breakthrough as a city, but the question remains, what's next? And an idea that you need to jot down and the takeaway from this intervention is that New York, like many other European Asian cities, even though the U.S. was always a car-oriented country, as far as I understand, the U.S. cities are now introducing paid entrances to vehicles. They're stressing the bicycle transport, green transport. They are reducing speed limits. So all those unpopular measures which other cities went through over the past 10 years, I think New York has arrived at this idea as well. So it's one of the perhaps strategic issues that other cities are faced with. In this regard, would like to give the floor to Eve. Could you please share with us transport in Berlin? What are the key priority development areas in Berlin? We're pressed for time, so if you could manage to put it in a brief presentation, we'd really appreciate it.
So, I hope you could see something. So, first of all, thank you very much for having me.
Eve, we cannot see your presentation. We do not see your presentation.
Not more. I have to. So maybe it's easier if I just talk instead of making a presentation, because what I want to say is one of the basic new developments we all have to have in mind is that next to wanting people to come into the system of public transportation, we also want to be inclusive as societies, and inclusion has different aspects, and the one I want to take out today is barrier-free inclusion, because we've had a lot of talk on people walking, people cycling, but there's an idea behind them that they are, you know, young, or maybe they are able to walk, they're able to cycle, but we have all sorts of different types of disabilities where people might not even be able to do that, but they can be part of the public transportation system if you make it into a barrier-free and inclusive system. So that's one of the big issues we've been working on in the last years, and we have nearly all bus routes and buses which have disabled access, meaning that they're sort of ground floor. Our entire tram system has been operating barrier-free since 2017, which we're very proud of. And also our subway stations are now nearly 80% barrier-free. And as you know, our subway system started 100 years ago, where maybe barrier-free wasn't the main focus, meaning we have stairs all over the place. It's quite an accomplishment to then transfer the whole system into barrier-free movement, and it means more freedom for a lot of people. We always have this idea that maybe it's, you know, people in wheelchairs, but we also have blind people, we have deaf people, we have other ways of disabilities, and those we cater for as well. And as I said, our trams are 100% barrier-free. They're also fast public transportation, since you can build them quicker than subways, and you can give them enough room so that they really go through the cities and through the outskirts of the cities as well. So in former times, we had around 640 kilometers of tram. Now we have 300 kilometers of tram. That is due to the history of Berlin, which has an eastern part and a western part. The eastern part kept their trams, and they're quite happy that they did. And now we want to expand our tram system to the western part as well, because we want to build more infrastructure. We want to have it electric, we want to have it fast, and we want to be able to build in a reasonable time frame. And that's the reason why trams in Germany, and especially in Berlin, are having sort of a renaissance, coming back to the, you know, public realm. And for us, that's one of the main new infrastructural tasks we have in front of us. We want to build basically 70 kilometers of new tram lines for Berlin, and as you know, Berlin is has 3.7 million inhabitants, and most of them are already here, so that it's not, you know, doing greenfield, but it's doing very much building within housing and also corporate environments, which means that there will be a lot of discussions on how do we want the city to be, what kind of 15 minutes radiance do we want, etc. And it's going to be a really, really important and interesting discussion really on how Berlin's public transportation face will look like in the next couple of years. So that's what I wanted to share with you, the aspect of barrier-free access, which means we really have accessibility and equity in the system built in itself, and the main way on how can we do this is build trams. Thank you very much.
Eve, thank you so much. You're right. One of the key priorities has something to do with inclusion. People differ. They have different needs. There are people with restricted mobility, and the current transport projects, they should individual needs of different groups of population into account. It was heartening to hear that human thoughts move ahead, and you said that East Berlin retained its tramway network. West Berlin destroyed it, but now wanted back. In Moscow, we have tramways network, we have trams, and we face similar challenges. Now, moving on to the last speaker, Alexander. From a designer standpoint, based on what you've heard today, what should be the key priorities in transport infrastructure designing? What principles should you be guided by when you design the transit system of the future, based on all the trends you're aware of?
Frankly speaking, today I represent the holding, which is owned by the government of Moscow. One of the heads of the companies has presented this discussion, and he made a presentation and covered the activities made by the company in the city. Today I would like to tell you that the company was created 10 years ago. The representatives of trade and construction complex. The main task of the company is not only to build the subway, but also other infrastructural projects. The company was established on the basis of Design Institute, which is more than 60 years old. For the last 10 years, we have been fulfilling the functions of designer and general constructor. We do different kinds of jobs assigned to us by the government of Moscow. So today we understand what should be done on site. The assignments are set by the departments. The government of Moscow, on the basis of the assignment, the design documents are developed, and then constructors build accordingly. We do have vast experience related to the construction of transportation infrastructure. We have worked for several years in Moscow. We put into operation 105 kilometers of subway, 51 new stations, and 11 electric engine houses, including Sokol. Till the end of 2021, we will put into operation 9 new stations. And we will also reconstruct Kakhovskaya station. So till the end of this year, we will build 27 kilometers of subway lines and 1 electric engine house. The unique experience of our company was awarded. We made a Guinness World Record, the biggest number of tunnel boring shields were working at the same time on various sites in Moscow. 23 tunnel boring shields were working at the same time at the construction sites of Moscow. It is our record, which puts us in the same on the same level with top companies. So our biggest project is a large circle line. 12 stations are opened now for passengers. It is 70 kilometers long. It will be the longest underground circle in the world, and the inhabitants of the city will be able to save 30 minutes of their time thanks to a big number of hubs and transference stations. In addition to that, we're working on radial lines, including Troitskaya line. We are finishing the design of other subway lines. The works on sites of subway are taking place 24/7. 18,500 people are working there. So we need to put into operation 57 subway lines, 24 stations, and 3 electric engine houses. Till 2023, the government of the city pays quite a lot of attention to transport infrastructure and transport interchange hubs. We are working on 22 transport interchange hubs. 16 of them are now under construction. At Nizhegorod station, we are creating the biggest European transport interchange hub. It is built on the basis of Nizhegorod subway station. So in 2020, it brought together several subway lines. The passenger flow of transport interchange hub will be about 600,000 people per day. In addition to that, we are building there an art object, a park, and a public space. The art stands for the system of Moscow transportation. We are dealing with the design and planning of roads. So in this area, we also constructed quite a lot of roads. Today, we are celebrating the date when the land which belonged to Moscow region was given to the city of Moscow, and now the roads are built there, and it's an important part of our transportation infrastructure. So we're working according to the tasks of the government. The tasks are being fulfilled, definitely. So the program, which was planned until 2023, will be implemented for sure. Thank you very much, Alexander, for your presentation, and as an inhabitant of the city, I would like to thank you for your contribution. If there's no company that builds it all, the plans will remain on paper. But such people as you, and companies as you, bring the projects to reality. I would like to express my gratitude to all the participants of this session. We can see it from Moscow and other cities of the world that the development of transportation infrastructure is a top priority. No one stops them, and of course infrastructure is the basis for the development of the city. However, we shall not forget about the fact that in addition to the development of infrastructure, we should also make sure that we develop the inclusivity, the sustainability of the city, and think about the strategy of the city. We have to think about inclusivity on the one hand, environmental constraints on the other hand, the speed limits which are necessary in the big cities. And these are the challenges which all the big cities face. Thank you very much, dear colleagues, and have a good day.